We got the LFA middleweight champion Brendan Allen back here on the program. He's going to be defending his title on February 22nd at LFA 61. He's going to be taking on Moses Murrietta. Brendan, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, man. Pretty cold, but how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I'm not cold. Thankfully, living on the West Coast now, we don't get too much cold weather, but it's good to talk to you again, man. Of course, we talked after you won the title when you got that good win over Tim Hiley. What have you been up to since then? Did you get any time off? Because I know you're a guy that it's hard to keep out of the gym.
Yeah, I actually did. I got some time off to rest. I went and hunting my property in southern Illinois with some friends, and other than that, just been working at home doing construction and trying to train a friend of mine, Zach Fears, and that's really it, man. Finally got back, got a fight, got back up here to Milwaukee to get a training camp in.
That's excellent, man. And of course, this fight, it's about a month away, or less than a month away, I should say. When did you actually find out about it? Because obviously, you plan your camps at Rufus Sport in preparation for an upcoming fight.
Man, I knew about this fight for a little while, probably I'd say about 3 weeks before it was announced. Um, so I think I found out like first week of January, maybe second week at the latest. So I've known about it for a little while. Finally got the opponent that we wanted. I had a different opponent, and they didn't take the fight, and so they had some merry-go-rounds with Moses, but finally came together, and it actually came together once we got his name pretty fast.
Are you allowed to say who you're supposed to fight, or does that have to be a top secret?
I mean, they offered us Alton, but I think they said his hand was hurt or something like that.
Gotcha. I thought he was fighting at 205 anyways, so that's interesting because I know he hasn't fought at 185. I don't think since Contender Series. He's had like two other fights, but that would have been interesting because he's a Pura Vida guy and you're at Rufus Sports, so there's kind of like a rivalry there, right?
Yeah, I had talked to my manager, and I offered to go up to fight him at 205 as well, but like I said, they said his hand was hurt when they or something like that when they came back. So yes, I asked for Moses, and I felt he was the next guy in line, and he deserved it, and he has the record, and he's fought some good guys, and he's put on some good performances, and I always ask to fight the best, so I felt he was next in line, and it was his time, like, to get a shot. So I felt
Yeah,
like that.
and I was going to mention him because obviously he's fought a couple times for LFA, but he's fought primarily in California, so that's good. You've been scouting your opponents or potential opponents, I guess. Was he someone you knew a decent amount about before taking this fight?
Not really. I just seen him fight, saw his record. Um, the Access TV rankings. He was the only guy that's had fights for them. He was the only guy that had like the amount of fights that I'm told that they look for title fights because everyone else on the rankings was like 3, 4, 0. So yeah, I just like I said, I felt like that's how it should go. That you should fight the next best guy and not just a scrub or anything like that. So that's what I asked for.
Excellent. How do you feel like you match up against him?
I mean, I feel like our matchup good. He's a good kickboxer, and he's good with range, good with keeping his distance, and he seems to get his timing down as he goes on. But like I always say, I'm just different than the guys he's fought.
And what about experience? I mean, you do have more fights, but I think this is something we always talk about no matter what opponent you're facing. But you fought some really tough guys that are in the UFC, like Eric Anders, like Anthony Hernandez. How much do you feel like that will pay dividends in this fight?
Uh, to be honest, when I step in there, it doesn't matter. I just got to fight him and come to fight, and as long as I bring the best me, that's all that matters. It kind of took me a little second to get going and get in my rhythm with Tim, kind of like the second round, and it was like luster, and but once I find my groove, it's kind of hard to break. So I'm looking to just find that groove really early with Moses and just keep going with it. I just want to pick up where I left off from Tim.
Yeah, how do you avoid that? Because it's funny. One of your teammates, Gerald Mershart, kind of the same way. He's a bit of a slow starter. How do you overcome something like that? Like, is that something you can work on, or is it you just have to do it when the time comes?
I feel it's more of you got to do it when the time comes because you can try as best as you can in training, but it's still just not the same as when you step in there. When I was first starting as a professional, I'd come out really hard, and at that time I didn't run, I didn't really do cardio or anything like that, so I'd kind of gas a little bit, but my skills got me through. So then as I was at that beginning level, I realized that I needed to bring that down to be able to compete with these really good guys. So I'm trying to find that happy medium still, but I feel like I'm getting better at it. I just felt with that title shot, that was my third time. I needed to be really smart, really really strategic with that. And so I just kind of took it a little slower than I should have, and kind of, you know, slipped up a little bit at the first, just being too lazy. So that won't happen again.
And I mentioned Gerald Mershard. I imagine same training partners, Biggie Rhodes, Gerald Mershard, all sort of the heavier guys at Rufus Sport.
Yeah, all the same guys training with. Nobody new, nobody different. Just training, hitting pads have been a lot more intense this camp. Been crushing the pads, crushing the bag work at night. It's just more intense than normal. Just pushing harder. My friend Paul Felder's here, so I've he's been pushing me, cardio and extra work outside of the gym. But this past week, the cold's been killing my truck, so I had to miss a couple sessions with him, like outside of the gym and stuff like that, trying to fix it. But I'm still in good shape. Still everything's going good, and just steady pushing myself.
What about the cut? I know when you take some time off, you tend to eat a little bit off the grid, so to speak. How's the weight cut going ahead of this fight?
Definitely, I came in a lot heavier than normal. Um, I had Ian Laros help me with this one, so I just got that diet Friday. Just started it yesterday. I was eating clean before that, eating good, so I came in at like 220, dropped down to like 210, 208, staying around there. And so this week I should be at like 205 or less.
And you're a young guy. I mean, do you see yourself competing at middleweight for a while, or do you see a future at 205? Because you are a pretty big guy.
Yeah, I feel like my frame can definitely hold the 205 pretty easily. I feel if I keep going up, when I get these long camps, it's kind of hard to really tell where my weight's going to fluctuate. But when I fight like I normally do, back to back to back to back, then I'm really able to tell how big I'm going to get and then how much longer I really have there. So right now for this cut, I did have some time off. So after this cut, we'll see like how fast I jump back up and things like that, and how quick the next fight is, to really see if I'm going to stay here for a lot longer. But I definitely still see me staying here for, a year or two. But I definitely see 205 in the future if, I keep going.
Well, it's interesting because if you look at the UFC, middleweight and light heavyweight, I mean, they're always looking for more prospects. It's one of those divisions where it seems like there are some openings, as opposed to like welterweight or lightweight or any of the smaller weight classes. So I think you're in good shape there. Who's going to be in your corner for this fight?
I'm not really 100% sure yet, but as of right now, I think it's going to be Duke and Jared Gordon and maybe Gerald Mearshart, and then I have my wife coming this time to hang out and
Oh,
stuff.
cool. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, she's excited, so it'll be a little different not having my dad there, but you know, still make the best of it, and I'm gonna fight and win and then go home.
How do you see this fight playing out on February 22nd?
I definitely see the first round kind of being a little bit of a triathlon, to be honest with you. I see him trying to stay on his bike a little bit and not really wanting to engage with me, not really wanting to. I see him more wanting to stick and move, but I just see my size and everything like that and my speed. I think it's going to just transgress into me just kind of taking over and running with it.
Have there been talks with the UFC? Have they said anything? If you win this fight, you potentially could get the call up. Because I know last year Contender Series would have been an option if you weren't coming off a loss. So obviously this fight's very important.
Yeah, I haven't got anything like that. I don't know. Maybe it's my fighting style. Maybe it's me. I don't know. I haven't heard
Well, you're
anything from.
finishing fights. I would think that's something they'd want, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I figured, but I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty realist. Some of my fights aren't the most impressive or the most fun to watch, but I do get the job done. I do get the win. But we all know they're looking to who puts asses in the seats, and sometimes I really don't do that. So in a business perspective, I understand that, and I understand that I need to up my game and my performances in order to do that, which is what I'm looking to do come February 22nd. But ultimately, no, I've been on the B team or the up calls or whatever you want to call it for Contender 2 years in a row. Two short notice calls, and one I was injured, and the other one I had a 7-day suspension that was mandatory by the Texas Athletic Commission. So,
Okay. But would you be open to if they called you again and said, hey, we want to get you on the show, is that something you'd be able to take, or do you want to just stay with LFA and wait it out and see what happens?
I'm hoping, me personally, I'm hoping that fighting a guy like Moses and finishing a guy like Moses will just put my resume over the top where I can jump the Contender Series call, because like this is 2 summers that I've already missed, so this would be the third summer. Everybody that I've come up fighting with and that have been in the same realm as me have already went to the UFC. So I am the youngest, but I'm hoping to jump the Contender Series with this win. But they've already told me, like I've heard at least, that I'm guaranteed right now a spot on the Contenders, but they look for activity for short notice calls, and um, if I keep inactive, they're just going to overlook me when it comes to short notices. So.
I see. Interesting situation. And this is going to be a great card. It's coming up here February 22nd. It is LFA 61. You can watch it on Access TV. Brennan, it's always good catching up with you, man. Glad to hear everything's going well. Just remind people where they can find you on social media. And if you have any sponsors or shout outs, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, first, man, as always, thank you to you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always good catching up with you as well. If you want to follow me, it's Brendan Allen MMA on Twitter, Brendan Allen on Facebook, as well as my fan page, Brennan All In Allen, and then Instagram is B_Allen185. I'd like to thank my sponsors, K-Ray Construction, Friendly Power Sports, B&A Builders, Jack Usher Construction, and Untouchable Tattoos. And, I'd like to thank my management, Sucker Punch, Brian Hamper, Brian Butler, David Arvello. And obviously, I'd love to thank my camp. Without them, I wouldn't be able to, have these skills and things like that. So thank you, Duke Rufus, Scott Cushman, and Daniel Wanderley, and all my training partners, man. I don't want to leave anyone out, but thank you to all of them as well.